He told her to go find someone who deserved her. She said she already had. The letter was 3 lines long. It said, "Nell, I am not who you think I am. Go find someone who deserves what you give. I am sorry. Amos." He had left the letter on the kitchen table of the cabin on Juniper Creek, weighted down with the salt cellar, and he had ridden out before dawn on a Thursday morning in March, while Nell was still sleeping in the bed they had shared for 2 years, and he had taken only his bay horse and his rifle, and the clothes on his back, and the particular burden of a man who has decided that the best thing he can do for the woman he loves is to remove himself from her life, which is not love, but the shadow of love, the shape it takes when a man is more afraid of his own unworthiness than he is of her loneliness. Amos Kell was 33 years old. He had been a good man once, before the war, and the war had not made him bad, but had made him uncertain of his goodness, which is a different thing, and in some ways worse, because a bad man can be reformed, but an uncertain man reforms himself endlessly, finding in every act of kindness some hidden failure, in every moment of happiness some proof that the happiness is borrowed and will be reclaimed. He had fought for 3 long years in a war that had shown him things about the world and about himself that he did not know how to carry, and the heavy, not knowing how to carry, was what he brought to Juniper Creek when he homesteaded the land in 1879 and built the cabin with his own hands and tried to build a life that was quiet enough to contain what was loud inside him. He had met Nell at a church supper in the town of Copperton, 12 miles south of the cabin. She was 27, a school teacher who had come to Copperton from Ohio because the territory was paying frontier teachers double what Ohio paid, and because Nell was a woman who went where the work was, not where the comfort was. She had dark brown hair that she wore pinned up and brown eyes that noticed everything, and a way of listening that made the person she was listening to feel that what they were saying mattered more than they had believed it did. She had listened to Amos. She had listened to him at the church supper and at the general store, and on the porch of the schoolhouse, and on long Sunday walks along the creek, and the listening had become the foundation of something that Amos had not planned for and did not believe he deserved. They had been together for 2 years, not married. Amos would not marry her because marriage was permanent, and permanence required a belief in his own steadiness that he did not have. But together, she had moved into the cabin on Juniper Creek, and she had made it a home, not by changing it dramatically, but by filling it with the small evidences of a shared life. Her books on the shelf beside his ammunition box, her teapot on the stove beside his coffee pot, her quilt on the bed that he had built for 1 person, and that now held 2. And the holding of 2 was the thing that Amos found most difficult to trust, because the holding of 2 required him to believe that he was worthy of being one of the 2, and the believing was the hardest work he had ever done, harder than the homesteading, harder than the war. He had left because of the dream. He had been having the dream for months, the same dream, the same sequence, the same ending, and the dream was about the war and about the things he had done in the war, and the dream always ended with him standing in a field where the ground was wrong and the sky was wrong and everything was wrong, and he would wake up in the dark of the cabin with his heart hammering and his hands shaking and Nell's hand on his chest, steady and warm, and the steadiness and warmth of her hand was the thing he could not bear, because the hand was the hand of a woman who loved him, and the man she loved was the man in the dream, and the man in the dream was not the man she believed him to be and loved. He had tried to tell her. He had tried 3 times, once on the porch in September, once in bed in November, once at the kitchen table in February, and each time the words had stalled in his throat like a horse refusing a jump, and the refusing was not cowardice but protection, because telling her would change the way she looked at him, and the way she looked at him was the only mirror in which he could see himself as whole. So he had left. He had left instead of telling her, because leaving was easier than watching her eyes change, and the leaving was a gift he believed he was giving her, the gift of not having to know, the gift of being free from a man who did not deserve what she had built with him, the gift of an empty cabin and a clean start, and the opportunity to find someone better, which was anyone, which was everyone, which was every man in the territory who did not wake up in the dark with his hands shaking. Nell found the letter at 7 o'clock in the morning. She read it standing at the kitchen table in her nightgown, with her bare feet on the cold floor, and the salt cellar in one hand, and the letter in the other, and she read it twice, and the second reading was different from the first, because the first reading was shock, and the second reading was anger, not the hot, explosive anger that comes and goes, but the cold, settled anger of a woman who has been decided for, who has been removed from a decision that was hers to make, who has been told by a man she loves that he knows what she needs better than she does, and who knows, with the bone-deep certainty of a woman who has loved carefully and deliberately for 2 years, that he is wrong. She did not cry. She got dressed quickly. She fed the horse. She saddled the horse. She packed saddlebags with food for 3 days. Jerky, hardtack, dried apples, the cornbread she had baked the night before, and she rode out of the yard at 8 o'clock on a March morning that was cold and bright and sharp with the smell of melting snow. And she rode north without hesitation, because north was the direction Amos would have gone, north toward the high country, north toward the empty places where a man who is running from himself believes the running will eventually lead to a place where the self cannot follow, which is nowhere, which is the point, which Nell understood even if Amos did not. She tracked him for 2 full days. She was not a tracker, but Amos was not trying to hide. He was riding slowly, the way a man rides when the destination does not matter, and the riding is the only thing that does, and his horse left clear prints in the soft spring mud along the creek bottoms and the snow patches on the ridges. She followed the prints north through the foothills, up into the timber, past the abandoned mine workings on Cedar Ridge, and into the high valley above the tree line, where the wind blew cold and constant, and the grass was still brown from winter. She found him on the second evening. He was camped alone in the lee of a rock outcrop at the head of the valley, and the camp was spare and cheerless. A small fire, a bedroll spread on the ground. The horse hobbled in the grass nearby. He was sitting by the fire with his rifle across his knees, not cleaning it, not holding it with purpose, just holding it the way a man holds the last familiar thing, when everything else has become unfamiliar. He saw her riding up the valley in the last blue light of the day, and his face did the thing that a man's face does when the person he has left appears in the place he has gone to. A collapse and a lift at the same time, the simultaneous experience of being caught and being found, which are different things, and which feel exactly the same. "Go back," he said. "No. Nell, I left for a reason. You left for a bad reason. You left because you decided for me. You decided that you were not good enough, and you decided that I should not be the one to disagree, and you were wrong on both counts. You do not know what I am. I know exactly what you are. You are a man who has nightmares. You are a man who wakes up in the dark with his hands shaking. You are a man who fought in a war, and who carries what the war gave him, and the carrying has made you believe that you are broken, and I am here to tell you that you are not broken. You are heavy. Broken and heavy are not the same thing." Amos looked at her. She was on the horse, silhouetted against the fading sky, wrapped in a coat that was too thin for the altitude, and she looked cold and tired and determined. The look of a woman who has ridden for 2 days to deliver a message that could have been delivered in the kitchen if the man she loved had been willing to stay and hear it. "Get down off the horse," he said. "Are you going to tell me to leave again?" "No. I am going to make you coffee, because you look cold, and because the coffee is already on the fire, and because you rode 2 days to find me, and the least I can do is let you sit down." She got down. She sat by the fire. He poured coffee into a tin cup and handed it to her. Their hands touched around the cup, and the touching was the first physical contact between them in 2 days, and the contact was a circuit closing, the completion of something that the letter had broken and the writing had repaired. "I have dreams," Amos said. "I know you have dreams. They are bad. I know they are bad. I have been lying beside you through them for 2 years. I know what they do to you. I know what you sound like when you are inside them. I know what your hands do. I know what your breathing does. I know all of it, Amos. I have known all of it since the first month. Then why did you stay? Because the man who wakes up from the dream is the man I chose, not the man in the dream. The man who wakes up and reaches for me in the dark, is not a man who does not deserve me. He is a man who is afraid he does not deserve me, and those are different men, and I chose the real one. Amos was quiet for a long time. The fire popped and shifted. The wind moved across the valley in a long, cold sigh. The horse stamped and blew. The stars were coming out, sharp and precise in the altitude, the way stars look when there is no light for 50 miles in any direction, and the sky is the oldest thing visible, and the newest thing felt. I should not have left, he said. No, you should not have. I should not have decided for you. No, I should have told you about the dreams. You should have told me about the dreams, and I would have listened. And the listening would not have changed anything, because I already knew, and the knowing did not change anything, because you are not your worst night, Amos. You are your best morning. You are the man who built a cabin with his hands, and who reads to me at night, and who feeds the horse before he feeds himself, and who loves me in a way that is steady and careful and real. And the steadiness is not a performance. It is who you are. The dream is the liar. You are the truth. He put his hand over hers on the tin cup. The hand was the hand that shook in the dark, and it was not shaking now. It was still, and the stillness was not the absence of trembling, but the presence of something stronger than trembling, the presence of a choice, made by a woman who had ridden 2 days to make it, and who would not allow it to be unmade by a 3-line letter and a salt cellar. Come home, Nell said softly. Nell, come home. The cabin is cold without you, and the horse needs hay, and the coffee pot is empty, and I do not want to sleep alone in that bed again. Come home. He came home. He rode beside her for 2 days back through the high valley, and down through the timber and along the creek bottoms, and back to the cabin on Juniper Creek. And the riding back was slower than the riding out, not because the horses were tired, but because the riding back was not flight but return. And return takes the time it needs because the person returning has to decide, with each mile, that the returning is right. And Amos decided it mile by mile, ridge by ridge, with Nell beside him, until the cabin appeared in the clearing below them, and the smoke was not rising from the chimney, because no one had been there to light the fire. Nell lit the fire. Amos put up the horses. They met at the kitchen table where the letter had been, and where the salt cellar still stood, and where 2 years of shared meals and shared mornings and shared silence had built something that a 3-line letter could not undo. I am going to have the dream tonight, Amos said. I know. And you will be there when I wake up. I will be there when you wake up. I will be there every time you wake up. That is what I am telling you. That is what I rode 2 days to tell you. He reached across the table and took her hand. The taking of the hand was not a gesture. It was an answer. The answer to the letter. The answer to the leaving. The answer to the question he had been asking himself for 2 years, which was whether he was worthy of being loved by Nell Pardee. And the answer was not yes. The answer was that the question was not his to answer. It was hers, and she had answered it. On horseback, in the high country, in the cold, with a determination that was larger and truer than his fear. All right, he said quietly. All right. The fire in the stove caught and held, and the cabin warmed, and the night came down over Juniper Creek, and they went to bed. In the bed he had built for 1 person, and that held 2, and the holding of 2 was, for the first time, not a thing Amos questioned, but a thing he accepted. The way a man accepts the ground beneath his feet, not because he has earned it, but because it is there, and because the person lying beside him has told him it is there, and because believing her is the bravest thing he has ever done.